Yo, what's going on? This is Kurt and I'm back for another video. The topic of my video today is Dragon Damballah, destiny swapping, the 360 demonic doors in your blood, plus the secret of wealth. Before I start the video, I have to remind you that I'm having a workshop on March 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern, the 10 laws of spiritual warfare. What are we seeing in the workshop? The rules of engagement for spiritual warfare, the protocols of spiritual petitions, when and when not to attack, the best forms of offensive and defensive magic, how to protect yourself from friendly fire, how to spiritually evaluate enemies, how to activate your avatar self, the absolute nose of war, the multiplication of spiritual energy, the secrets of darkness, potential energy, how to shield yourself from attacks, destroying blockages and negative attachments, and how to be offensive without creating karma. Go to theskepticalspiritualist.com and book your spot for this workshop. Honestly, this is not information you'll find anywhere else because niggas won't give it up. That's just the way it is. Matter of fact, the 10 laws of spiritual warfare are to be used mainly, the majority of the offense that you have to use is against your ancestors. Destiny swapping, the 360 demonic doors in your blood, plus the secrets of wealth. Anyone who tells you to get initiated is your enemy. Anyone who tells you to join a secret society is your enemy. Anyone who tells you to join a mystery school is your enemy. Today, don't watch this in your feelings or in your emotions. If you're in your emotions, you don't need to watch it. This is not for you. But what I'm about to say today is some very information. It's some very heavy information. I just hope you guys are ready. So the ancestors are the true enemies of our progress. Just like the government takes public resources to make themselves and their close circles rich, most of the bloodlines have been sold to demonic and demonic entities by the ancestors. As a subjective being, your worth is in the trillions. This worth is in your astrological birth chart. Your birth chart is your individual space in the blood. They invade your space through rituals like baptism and communion. They checkmate you through initiations. They sell your subjective self on the spiritual market. Instead of activating your subjective self for your gain and benefit, you unknowingly utilize your divine powers for various secret societies. Most people will never know because their consciousness is asleep. So let's say this is the blood. This is a bloodline, right? These separations mark the astrological birth chart that every single person has in the blood. How do they get around those separations or those boundaries? Because I'm sharing blood with all of my family, but I need to have a protection for what I carry divinely. That's called my astrological birth chart. To erode the limits and the perimeters of your birth chart, first baptism, communion, religions, then when you get older, to put an absolute nail in your coffin, they give you initiations. The thing is, when you get initiated or when the boundaries of your birth chart within the blood you are using with other people is compromised, they now take the subjective astral divine being and they put its powers to use and they loan those powers out to various entities, various intra-terrestrial entities, various extraterrestrial entities, various demonic entities, various secret societies. and you don't understand, your life is not going the way you want it to be. You don't understand why you can't make progress. You don't understand why you can never do or present what you want to present to the world. That's exactly because of this. Let me go further. The ancestors are your enemies. Anyone telling you to initiate or join a mystery school is your enemy. Now, I'm going to tell you about the path of Damballah. Damballah is a dragon. All of the loi in Vodou, Haitian Vodou, is dragon spirituality. It is subjective, astral, divine, dragon spirituality. The mainstream mythology of Dumala contains many inaccuracies. Dumala is not a serpent. The serpent's shape and movements symbolize the energy field modality he utilizes to harmonize the various planes of consciousness. Dumala is the law of peace, wisdom, and wealth. The masses think money is wealth, yet money is a tiny fraction of the frequency of wealth. In nature, the frequency of wealth is subservient to that of health. Health is the best funnel for wealth. Damballah is the law of blueprints. He knows the where and the what. Knowledge applied is wisdom, and wisdom is an action that creates peace. The only way that you can liberate your divine subjective astral self is through peace. The secret, the war that you have against your ancestors. Because when they say the ancestors, you know what the ancestors really are? When they say your ego is your ancestors. But you've been fooled to think that your ego is your ego and it is for you to transform. I'll explain to you why are they fooling you. Peace is the passive aspect of wealth. Beauty is the active form of peace. Wealth is a storage of peace. Listen, wealth is a storage of peace. For this reason, most deities of wisdom and peace are also gods of wealth. Wealth is the beautiful knowledge that trumps disorder. It is cooperation, cohesion, simplicity, structure, flow, and integration. The principles underlying wealth transcend material objects and money. When you build your wealth upon these fundamentals, you can never lose it. If not, you're just holding it to make somebody else rich. Practically, we all have the wealth energy within. For Damballah, the possessor of universal blueprints, it's all about business, the business of energy. The accumulation of energy leads to health. Health is a magnet for wealth. How can peace make you wealthy? According to Damballah, arguing is a business. But guess what arguing is? The entirety of the existence of the so-called ego is an argument. It is a debate. When you argue, you provide the opposing party with services you don't account for. When you argue with someone, you're doing them a favor. A poor person lacks peace. They live in a perpetual state of deficit. They constantly need a fix. They desperately need to feel. They feel when they get opposition. Resistance is a way to reaffirm what they want to believe. They are a walking confirmation bias. To secure their belief, they argue. They go back and forth. The going back and forth is the fuel for the ghost that inhabits them to stay alive. Internal emptiness recognized is usually anger, frustration, and insecurity. Why do people routinely join groups or hate groups? Group doctrines are 1,000% sure way to create friction and resistance with other groups. That resistance allows you to imbibe, absorb, and amass energy and emotions from the people you fight against. Now, this is the key to understanding destiny swapping. How your astrological birth chart and your divine subjective astral self is hijacked. The kingdom of Baron Samedi is a mystery. In one of the most famous voodoo songs for Baron, the singer says, Yo di Baron pa loi, même konnen Baron c'est loi, oh. They say Baron is not a loi, but I know that Baron is a loi. Why is the singer saying that the people are saying Baron is not a loi, but he knows that Baron is a loi? Because blood is a communal substance. As an individual, your blood makes you part of a community. In fact, as a communal substance, it even transcends the barriers of racial groups. Meaning, if you have in-laws, they now have access to your blood. The blood is a 360 door that gives access to you. Ancestors store contracts, oaths, pledges, declarations, testimonies, and notices in the blood. Like in any community, you pay when you use the resources. So when you utilize this body, when you utilize this bloodline, you need to leave the blood better than how you found it, or at least you need to not leave it worse. So what happens to most people? Most people, because the ancestors long time ago sold the blood, and you have to remember, it doesn't have to be 1,000 of them. It could only be one very powerful magician who makes a pact with a specific entity to have riches for 5 or 6 generations. So what he does, he knows that everybody in his family is baptized. Most people are communed. They're initiated. So what happens, the boundaries of their specific or individual astrological birth charts no longer exist. So these entities cannot be, the subject or the wealth that they contain cannot be utilized for the profit of the demonic entities the magician did his deal with. Therefore, most people are possessed by their blood. The blood represents the objective part of you, but I told you, you're not an objective being, you are a subjective being. The song says, they say Baron is not a loi. Why do they say Baron is not a loi? It's because Baron is the separation between the objective and the subjective. And yet, his administration handles all objective debts and claims. So if you did a ritual with a spirit and you sold your soul, even after your death, when Baron has your soul and that spirit comes to collect because you did the deed, Baron is forced to give the soul away. Baron, he is justice. Whatever you do is what you will get. Therefore, this is something that I learned, I would say, about a year ago. The loi have nothing to do with the ancestors. Every single individual has a connection to a loi or to a divinity. But most bloodlines have blurred those distinctions. The ancestors are the red tape between you and your subjective divine connection. They purposely obstruct divine connections by way of the blood proximity. Most rituals in traditional spirituality are really to appease ancestors. Matter of fact, all the spiritual things that you do, meditation, this, that, try to fight against my ego. The ego is nothing but the ancestors who have left the blood worse than how they found it, who refuse to evolve and put their burden on you. How do they do it? All they have to do is make your life miserable. Then you start looking for a solution. Oh, and guess what happens? Normally, they're going to direct you towards a card reader, or they're going to inspire you, come to see you in a dream and tell you, yo, your life will get better if you serve your ancestors and get initiated. That is the solution, they say. When you go through the process of initiation, all the problems they caused magically stopped. They only stop because now they are extorting you. Instead of evolving their own consciousness, they prey on your ignorance. You give them energy, and in turn, they give you things. Yet you don't get that you fucked up. You didn't connect to divinity. You connected to a mafia in your bloodline. So you think you connected to Legba, or the energy of Legba, which is a dragon of perfection, to Baron, which is a dragon of perfection, to Grand Erzuli, which is a dragon of perfection. No, they connect the energy of Legba to the energy of a saint. So you start worshiping this saint thinking that it's Legba, but it's really an ancestor or a group of ancestors under this guise, and they make your life as an initiate. Yo, do this for this law, do this festival, go read those prayers, sacrifice this, sacrifice that. DMX explains the concept perfectly in the Damien trilogy. Sometimes talents and opportunities come from ancestors trying to divert you from your path. Whatever objective talent you receive will clash with your soul mission. Plus now you have a debt to a spirit. So most of the guys, the so-called crack dealers in the 90s who had a flair for making money, their subjective self was a divinity of wealth and wisdom. So how can you take that entity which is worth trillions of dollars in the astral realm? No problem. Take the spirit of an ancestor who was a successful drug dealer. So everything this guy is going to do when it comes to dealing drugs and whatever is going to work. Keep in mind, he already had the potential to make money, but in a legal way, in a healthy way, and in a constructive way. But now this spirit empowers him, and this spirit and the court of this spirit empowers him. Eventually, he ends up in jail. Now he is under the ownership of not only these ancestors, but also of the court of law. And his sentence, although he was sentenced in the visible world, his sentence still carries in the invisible world also. And that's how they're able to trick you by giving you gifts, or so-called gifts that don't necessarily align with your mission, and then you just sold your soul just like that. That's why I tell anyone, do not initiate under no circumstances. Do not go through any rituals that you don't understand. But most importantly, don't chase money. Do not chase money. Do not chase money at the cost of your sovereignty. Everyone is and has access to wealth, and that's why that's why I titled this video the destiny swapping, the 360 demonic doors in your blood, and the secrets of wealth. Because the moment, as long as you keep the boundaries of your astrological birth chart correct, and as long as you are able to extract your spirit or your attention from the ego, which is really the ancestors, the energy that is liberated is creative, and energy must create. And this energy is the fuel for your divine subjective astral self, which will instantly manifest whatever it is destined to have. So DMX explains the concept perfectly in the Damien trilogy. Go listen to the Damien trilogy by DMX, but most importantly, go listen to how it ends and what he does to end the relationship, or what he tries to do. So I'm not against ancestors, but to be honest, if you're not in harmony with the air, water, fire, and earth, you can't be an ancestor. If you're not a perfected being, you can't be an ancestor. You are simply a blood relative. And blood relatives, honestly, it's practically every single one on earth is practically related. So nah, I'm not about that life. If you want something from the realm that I inhabit, I have no problem. I offer support based on the merit of your claim and the kindness of my heart if I choose to decide. You're not going to extort me, and you're not going to dupe me into thinking I'm serving Erzuli or I'm working with Erzuli, but you're just feeding a bunch of fucking lazy, evil, manipulative ancestors who are trying to make your life miserable, because that's what happens when you initiate and you sell yourself. What the fuck you think you have to do after? The same way you were manipulated, now you have to manipulate someone. And now it's a game. Now it's a game of this one sells this one and this one manipulates this one. It's all a fucking Ponzi scheme. So the natural remedy against all of this is called Baron Samedi. Baron's philosophy is clear. He's not here to tell you what to do. He's here to give you a choice. You can choose the easy route for money, status, and fame. But if you refuse that path and want sovereignty and wisdom, then Baron will mediate in your favor concerning or against the unethical beings on the other side. Ignorance pays, but it's costly. Wisdom is difficult, but it makes you sovereign. Either way, you choose. Baron's just here to do his job. Baron leads you to Damballah. Dumala, who is the path of wisdom, knows best. Possessed people act out. Engaging them makes you a sucker who argues and debates with generations of ancestral karma. You give them your thoughts and your emotions. You supply a storage space in your psyche to store their complexes. Those are ancestors working through them, and they are looking for victims to infect with hate. Oh, he shot this one over a game of dice. What the fuck you think that it is? Oh, he walked and he stepped on his shoes and he shot him and he killed him. What do you think it is? We're always told the ancestors, the ancestors, the ancestors. The ancestors are the number one force against your spiritual evolution. And again, I said, a true ancestor is a perfected being in harmony with the 9 planets and the 4 elements. Anything else is just a blood relative. So arguing with someone is like doing their homework for them or being a sparring partner. In real life, sparring partners get paid, psychologists get paid, and therapists get paid. What the fuck do I look like arguing with your great-great-great-grandfather or your aunt? If you have issues and you're empty and you're hurt and you're frustrated, why didn't your lineage leave knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to help you manage and mitigate those things you're going through? If you despise, I'll give you the best course of action. If you despise someone and what they represent because of how they act towards you, always give them the highest courtesy and respect. One of the greatest ways you could protect yourself spiritually is respect. Give people courtesy, respect, and respect. If somebody hates you and you dislike them in return, give them the utmost respect. Do not leave any doors for them to plot anything. Give them respect. So you don't go into people's bathrooms to sift through their shit. All forms of negative displays and expressions of verbal, mental, and emotional, all forms of negative displays and expressions are verbal, mental, and emotional shit. Why go through shit wars? This is how you soil your spirit of wealth, because your spirit of wealth, which is your divine subjective astral self, is free from all conflicts, and it cannot activate, it cannot enter its wealth body so as long as you're stuck in the duality and the polarity of arguing back and forth against shit you can't even prove. 99% of the time, people who display shitty characters and lack morality and kindness are possessed by ancestors. There's nothing to understand or to take personally. When somebody confronts me, I instantly think, oh, you want to be heard. You want some attention. You need to vent. You need clarification. You need energy, or you want to dispose energy, but not on my watch. Therefore, when you recognize that, you don't personalize idiotic and disrespectful behavior. And the more you are stuck and the more time you spend in a state of mind where you're arguing, where you're debating, when you're going back and forth, all you're doing is inviting those demonic forces and those demonic forces into your space. That's what you're doing, because you are the child that was born, that didn't know anything, and yet that was perfect. So you had no debates, you had no conflicts, you were just perfection. That's what you need to go back to be able to tap into that energy that is purely creative. And once there are no back and forth, once there are no doubts, what can only happen? You can only create amazing things from that perspective. So now, because of its limited nature, the knowledge within you will clash with the knowledge within somebody else. Wisdom is not about being smart, intelligent, or intellectual. It's about being honest with yourself. I know that most of the things that I wish were true aren't necessarily true. When you let go of ignorant certainty, which is I am, which is the ancestors, you open yourself up to universal possibility. We're now open to the marvelous laws of the universal blueprint. Damballah, the law of wisdom, says you must anchor yourself in something much more vast and spacious than certainty. That thing is, I don't know. When you start living from I don't know instead of I know, you're no longer clashing, because within I don't know, there is nothing to clash with. You just don't know. You enter into a completely distinct universe within the universe. It is not crowded. It is pristine and full of resources. In that universe, nature tells you about itself. We live 95% of our existence projecting instead of listening to nature. So what is the secret hidden in plain sight that I'm telling you? Do not argue with your own self. When you argue with yourself, you're inviting everything that I mentioned that you invite when you're fighting with others. The voice in your head is the most treacherous enemy that you must ignore. It is the ghost of all ghosts. It is I am. Energy is creative and must go somewhere. The energy you liberate from ending all internal arguments fuels wealth. It's an energy ruled by the number 7. 7 represents vitality. In Islam, Ridha embodies 7. He is the green man who drank from the fountain of immortality. The opposite of vitality is entertainment. All conflicts are entertainment. Vitality is the higher octave of health. Make vitality and health the concern of your personality to attract or to dwell in wealth. Put all of your mental, physical, and spiritual resources to the service of vitality. What is the most vital thing you do every day? You breathe. However, remember in the past I've explained, we don't breathe. Breathing just happens. So when you say I breathe, automatically it leads to I am. But who is really saying I am, I breathe, and I am? Again, the ancestors. Breath happens. Therefore, anchor yourself to the source of the motion of breath, and you will find eternal wealth. I breathe leads to I am. You don't breathe. Breath just happens. Therefore, anchor yourself to the source of the motion, the source of the motion apparent in breath, and you will find eternal wealth. The moment you drop this ego, the moment you drop this tendency we all have to try to fight against something, try to debate against something, and you get into your divine subjective astral self, automatically this energy this number 7 energy is wealth, because it dwells in I don't know. And when you don't know, like a child, when you don't know, automatically your divine subjective astral self acts as your parent. And this perfected entity, this omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient entity is the one that guides you and is the one that teaches you. But your I don't know is what fuels it. And you must get out of every single argument. This is the source of wealth. The ego is the ancestors. Most of the blood has been sold. The few have sold it, and the many are suffering. But you don't need to suffer. You don't need to go to a Ugan. You don't need to initiate in shit. All you need to do, study your astrological birth chart, work with the air, fire, water, earth. Work with the 9 planets. Work in being a beautiful person invisibly. You don't have to be beautiful. It's not about what people see. It's what about who you are behind closed doors. Do everything that's right. Do everything that is moral. Do everything that is just. Align yourself with these energies. Align yourself with these principles. That's how you attract wealth, and that's also how you're able to retrieve your divine subjective astral self from the underworlds, from the places that I've seen many people are stuck in. So they have their normal dreams, not understanding that their omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient self is somewhere else, making someone else rich, attracting shit for other people, doing missions. If you're a war god, your war god energy is being utilized unbeknownst to you. Why do you think they were saying, oh, your birth certificate is worth millions of dollars? That's what they were alluding to, because your divine subjective astral self can do things in the invisible realm, which people, not only in the invisible realm, but also in the visible realm, pay to get done. They're getting access to premium fucking divine entities. That's why whoever tells you to initiate, whoever tells you to join a secret society, whoever tells you any of that shit is your enemy, whether they know it or they don't know it, because you're supposed to rely solely on yourself, on the 4 elements, and whatever you need is in your astrological birth chart. Whatever you need is in your astrological birth chart. Whatever you need is in your astrological birth chart. No one can initiate you. You spent 9 months in your mother's womb. That was your initiation with Mother Nature.